Hey guys, what's up? It is Doug, and welcome to a special edition of Spooky Villages. In between my reviews, this is a Q&A episode. I'm sure I've done Q&As at some point, but generally the topic videos I've done kind of have a specific topic. They're not general stuff, but I wanted to do a Q&A before we get into the season here. These questions are actually from Patreon users. I'm going to pull up my phone in a minute. It's easiest that way. I'm just going to go over those, the questions people submitted when I asked the other day on Patreon. Mainly these are Halloween Village related, but they're not all. Some of them are just Halloween related, some other tangential stuff. But anyway, some great questions I wanted to address here. I also wanted to say at the top of this, thank you for the suggestions on the last video about some rare Spooky Town buildings or Halloween Village buildings to get. There's some really good ones, some I'd actually never even heard of. And I'm actually working to acquire some of those now for some reviews coming up. Another thing here, I'm going to be doing a guide to getting into Halloween Villages, because the one I have up now is several years old, and it really needs updating, especially in the last couple of years with all the supply issues. And really, it's not even that though. A lot of the info is straight up just not accurate anymore to when I shot that several years ago. So I'm going to be redoing that soon. Some of the info is kind of in here with these questions, but just want to let you guys know. All right, so with that said, let's get into the questions. These come from Patreon followers. Jessica W. She says, what advice would you offer new collectors to the Spooky Town hobby? She also asks, what's your favorite Lemax and Department 56 piece and why? All right, on the favorite piece issue, I will be talking about that very soon here in a dedicated video. I think I've got something up, and I'm going to do one of each year, an updated one. Really, I could do one of those, I feel like, every year at this point, because it seems like something comes out during a year that at least makes its way on the list or maybe shuffles things around. But that'll be coming up. The same thing will be for the, what advice do you give people getting into it? I'm gonna do a full video on that, but so it's not a complete cop-out answer. I will say the number one thing, the number one piece of advice I can give somebody that's getting into this hobby is, before you go wild, pick a piece, a single piece, like a building, theme around that, and start with that. I know it's easier said than done, but that's the number one piece of advice I can give, because so many people just go hog wild and they buy everything they can. And then in a year or two, sometimes sooner than that, they get overwhelmed. They wind up selling a bunch of their collection, or maybe getting out of the hobby because it's become this money sink. It becomes a stressor in some ways. It shouldn't be like that. You don't have to do that. So if you're getting into this hobby, if you see my channel or any of the other great YouTubers that are out there, just simplify it maybe. Maybe find a theme you like, the carnival or the trick-or-treat village, something like that. But I would say just pick a building, pick a couple accessories, and maybe just add one each year. I know a lot of people do that to their displays. That's actually a good way to go about it when, to keep you from getting burnt out, or to keep it from being crazy expensive. Because if you do start buying a bunch of buildings, I know this because this happened to me, if you go hog wild at the beginning, it can get ludicrously expensive. And who knows, if you buy too many at once, you might have to start a YouTube channel like I did to justify the purchase. So anyways, on to the next one here. That's a great series of questions, Jessica. Kelly S. This is Kelly from the Village Idiots. What's up? What's your favorite glue to use to repair those little pieces that inevitably snap off when unboxing? Very easy answer for me. I actually use Harbor Freight super glue. I'm big on that because it's just cheap, and super glue, I always wind up gluing a lid because I don't use it in so long, and so it's kind of hard to get in, and I wind up having to chop one of the tubes up. With Harbor Freight, I can just buy a bunch of it, and it doesn't really matter. So that stuff always seems to work pretty well. On some serious repairs, I have used a hot glue gun. That's from Michael's Stores. I don't even know the brand, frankly, of the gun. But for serious repairs, I will use a hot glue gun, but most of the stuff I can get by with just super glue, just a standard super glue. I've heard people using all different things, and the super glue I use is the liquid. It is not the gel. Casey R says, do your kids ever want to have their own little village in their rooms or somewhere else in the house that's their own? So I've got 3 daughters, and the short answer is no. The funny part is they think their dad is crazy, and they range from 11 to 6, almost 7. And no, they like watching what I do. They think it's hilarious that I have a YouTube channel for this. They actually, so they don't like, they don't really want to make their own building, but they do love making accessories for the pieces, especially little figurines. We do that with modeling clay, normally every holiday, but Basil, pumpkins, sometimes little trees, those are made out of modeling clay. And I use the stuff at Michael's. I'll actually do a video this year on it because I love doing them. I've done enough of them. It'll talk about how to sculpt clay and then basically bake it and then paint it. The stuff I do is not crazy, and the stuff that they do isn't like, you know, we're not spending a lot of time and a lot of money on it, but it's just a lot of fun. And that's how they really get their enjoyment out of it. And they enjoy laughing at their crazy dad and talking to their friends about it. David D says, how many like running a train set with their village? So this is one thing I've not done ever before, and I want to do it desperately bad. I want to start adding a train, a Halloween train, and gradually increasing it over time. I want to do that to my display. I hope within a year or two I will actually have the space to do that. I started building my own display, you know, the foam and everything, and can sculpt it and paint it and everything now, so that part's cool. So I just want to add the model train. I know a lot of people do that. It works fantastic. I think the displays I've seen that do that turn into a model train display. So I don't do it yet, but I absolutely do, and you guys are going to see my village evolve with that. And I actually can't wait in the future to do some model train reviews, because whenever I wind up picking a set, well, you know I'm going to talk about it, right? So I'm not an expert in that field by any means. I don't even know that much about it, but I am looking forward to getting into that, and I love all the folks that do the train setups. Christina M. says, as the time to begin preparations is creeping up on us, what are your plans for platform building expanding this year? Any new and exciting tools, devices that you'll be using to accomplish that? Okay, so that's a great question. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm filming this actually in May, and yeah, the season is coming up here soon. Normally, August is when I start building my display, just because I'm busy doing this first off, but also I need to see all the new buildings to see what I'm even going to do exactly. The last few years, I have not had very much room. Again, that's going to change here soon. I can't wait to do the big displays again, especially now that I know how to build the things. This year, I'm going to keep it simple again. I'm going to be doing a pumpkin patch again. Probably my last year of doing a pumpkin patch, at least for a little bit. And I might do something else, but I'm a little bit early, so I don't want to talk about it just yet. But I'm going to be doing a small thematic display, and I'm really looking forward to it. But thus far, I'm thinking of a pumpkin patch. I'll spill it, I guess. If I do something else, it might be an aquatic theme where I can base it around that skull, the Skull Cave Quarry. I love that piece. I didn't get to do a display around it last year, but I'm looking forward to incorporating that too. Maybe not this year, but I'm leaning towards the farm. You know, as for any new tools, I hope to incorporate some resin, and actually do a water part of my scene. I'm going to experiment with resin pouring, so you'll see that here on the channel, I hope. But that's kind of what I'm doing. Last year I got that 3-in-1 tool, the foam carving tool, so I don't plan to add any tools, but I do plan to mess with resin for water in my scene for the first time ever. Christina M. also asked, what would you say out of both Limax and Department 56 2022 Halloween releases the biggest missed opportunity was on a piece? I can't really answer that one yet, because I've not seen any of the Department 56 stuff in person yet, so that would be wouldn't be good for me to say. I suppose the only thing I would say thus far, and I'll do a full wrap up on this year, that the bulb and the display of the Dr. Gory's laboratory, that little bulb. I guess if I want to be really nitpicky, that little bulb that a lot of people commented on, I suppose would be my missed opportunity to do that thus far, just out of what I've seen. And I've seen about, I think, 5 of the new Limax buildings. That's it as far as in person, but hope to see all that stuff soon. Yeah, I'm talking about that Christmas bulb, because otherwise Dr. Gory's would have been almost the perfect building for me as far as the mad scientist lair. So yeah, hopefully that answers it. But I'll give you a full answer whenever I've seen everything here soon. When, normally in August is when I do those wrap-ups, but I'll absolutely give my opinion on that. Michael R. says, besides Michael's, what physical stores do you recommend for Limax purchases? And who do you recommend for online purchases? So Ryan, who's a friend of the show, Haunters Nation, he's great if you're doing online stuff. There are several other great local vendors if you look in the If you look inside the Facebook groups and on Instagram, like Erie Emporium's another good one. There's a bunch of really good ones. eHobby Tools is known, of course. As far as brick and mortar, Michael's is the only one near me that sells Lemax stuff. Now, Department 56 is different. Department 56, there's a lot of little individual stores all around the country that do sell it. A lot of mom and pop type craft stores. You'd have to look those up. I can tell you that my local hobby shop, where they have model train supplies, that has become invaluable for me, though. Even though it's not buying the Lemax stuff or the Department 56 stuff, it's buying the different goodies to make my bases, or to kind of add color, literally, I suppose in this case, to my scene. So hopefully that answers that one. Janice Z says, this is from my husband. Should water in the reservoirs be emptied after every use, or is it okay to let water sit for a couple days? I.e. the 2021 Skull Cave Quarry. I'm Jan on YouTube. Hey Jan, how are you? I take mine out if it's going to be sitting for a while. I don't think you have to do that. I would absolutely, though, before you put it in a box, that's a big thing for me, I should say. I leave it in there if the display is on. I don't really care. But I absolutely make sure it's totally dry before I put it in the box. Now, obviously, you're not going to put it in the box with full water. I don't really mean that, though. I would, before you're going to put that piece away, like the Skull Cave Quarry, I wiped it out, and then I let it sit out for a day or two before I put it in storage. So you don't have to take the water out all the time. I use distilled water also. That's a much softer water than if you use, non-distilled water. And you can have some, the chalky stuff basically from the water line, some hard water in it. Then you might get kind of a film, like a hard water line or something in your piece. But no, I leave my distilled water in. I just make sure it's dried completely before I store it. Angelina A. She asked 2 questions. She says, if you're adding miniature 3D printed items for accessories buying already or printed, what size should they be? She also asked, what are some good background sounds for ambiance in a Halloween town? Okay, so I don't really know the exact scale. It seems around 1/43 seems to be okay, but you can go smaller than that actually too. It's very tricky, the scale, but as far as like big brand stuff, like a normal scale, generally I found 1/43 is okay-ish sometimes. Not perfect though. You definitely don't want to go as small as like 1/64 though. That's another popular scale. That's way too small. You're going to have to kind of eyeball it, unfortunately. I don't have the best answer with that, so my apologies. I could be off, but that's kind of just what I was thinking was they're a little bit smaller than 1/43 scale. As for your other question, though, about ambiance and backgrounds, there used to be some party CDs. I would assume there still is, that you can get that just has kind of like haunted house, creaky noises and like screaming and stuff. That works great. YouTube, actually, if you just search for like spooky ambiance, there's a bunch of videos that come up. You can run that in the background, and I do that a lot too. So Greg J and Adriana G, they both asked about backdrops. What websites do you recommend for backdrops with a large display, suggesting on where to get custom backdrops? That one, Etsy. Just go to Etsy. You can also use Dress Lily, although recently I haven't found as much. I got this one on Etsy, and another one that I'm using this year, the fall trees. Etsy's great for that. Pretty much, if anything, I need any more custom, Etsy's where I go. But you can also find some tapestries on Dress Lily, and actually, I know you can on Amazon as well. Just look. I found out a lot of them, they're made overseas, and sometimes they can take forever to arrive. Diane W, she says, what are the tips on storing buildings and figurines, especially ones that may not have original packaging anymore? I actually use bubble wrap and kind of wrap a couple figurines at once anymore. I don't put them all back in the package, especially the Lemax ones with those blister packs. I also use those plastic bins where you can put a hard plastic top on them to store everything. And then I use that for figurines and use bubble wrap. The buildings I normally keep out. I just kind of stack them Jenga style in their boxes, but I also will use some of those plastic bins for that as well. You can get good deals on those at like a Walmart or something. But plastic bins and a lot of bubble wrap, that's what I use. Greg J, he asked a couple. He asked to give him advice on how to handle cycle down pieces in a display if you don't want to put them up front. He also asked, with large pieces, is it okay to use multi-adapters or do you have to use them on a single plug? Multi-adapters are totally fine. The big thing, you just want to have to obviously turn off the single cycle pieces by themselves, let them cycle down. I drill holes in my display normally, and we'll run the little wires through, where you turn them on and off. That's how I typically do that. You can be pretty stealthy with that to where it doesn't matter too much and you won't notice it. So that's what I do. We're going to end it here, guys. Thank you so much. Jan, she says, do you watch certain movies during the month of October to get in the Halloween mood? And of course, in addition to your village and your candles. Do you watch Halloween specific movies, classic horror like The Exorcist? For me, she says, it's exemplified by Eggers' The Witch or Argentino's Suspiria for the colors and the soundtrack. Sorry if I pronounce one of those wrong. Yes, there are a couple things. I have a tradition with my kids. We watch The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Disney version. That is some of the most beautiful animation. It's great. I love the songs. We'll all be singing, of course, throughout all of Halloween. I have a deeper voice, so I'm always doing the Ichabod Crane. That's like my Halloween. That's how you know it's October, is because they're saying Daddy is singing Ichabod Crane. I love The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman there. It's an amazing one. I also like watching some of the Nickelodeon specials. I'm a 90s kid. I love the Doug one where they go to Funky Town and it's spooky. I love the Rugrats one where they have the Reptar bars. And I'm also a fan of the Salute Your Shorts one with Zeke the Plumber. That was scary when I was younger. I loved on Saturdays before Halloween or on Halloween, if it was on that holiday, if it fell on it, watching Nickelodeon marathons as a kid when all the Halloween episodes would go. I'm also a huge Simpsons Treehouse of Horror fan. Particularly the first 10, I think, are around the best, but there's a lot of really good ones. But I love the Treehouse of Horror. So those are my traditions. I'd love to hear yours down below. That's actually a great question for a giveaway. Hey, thank you guys all for all those questions. Some really good ones. Thank you all to the folks on Patreon for helping to provide those. I'm going to be doing another post like that to do some more of these Q&As for general village questions, and look soon here for that updated beginner's guide to getting into villaging. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all the support. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters, for everybody watching. And that'll do it, guys. Thank you.